Mohamed, welcome to the Commerce Talks podcast. You've just have been on stage with Lena at the Seamless Dubai conference, and then she proposed to have you in the podcast with Cash My Stocks. Initially, I thought it's kind of cashback kind of buying thing, but it's like it's much more profound. But before I explain something wrong to our audience, please introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about your business.
Cash My Stock really is a full-fledged B2B cross-border liquidation platform. We help companies cash their slow-moving inventory and release tied-up working capital. It provides users with a seamless experience, secure transactions end-to-end, and it's really a replica of the live business-to-business interaction. We simply digitize that into a platform, allowing buyers and sellers to transact securely through the platform. We have a modern supply chain approach where Cash My Stock gives buyers and sellers an instant access to either stock availability or stock sales, hence reducing the time to market and provide an alternative to penetrate new markets compared to the traditional supply chain and the traditional horizontal flow of information and stock. This allows a vertical feed into the pipe that connects buyers and sellers, and hence the product becomes the target rather than looking for a single supplier for a single product. So in simple words, we turn excess to access.
And just for my understanding, so if you're talking about stocks, it's remaining stocks. Let's say an apparel retailer bought like too much stuff of like a certain item or so, and it's end of season, and he doesn't know or he doesn't want to have this in the store. Then you're coming by and say, okay, I buy 2 containers of this of this apparel, minus 90% of the initial price, and then put it on your platform. It's not. You're not giving him liquidity for it, and he stays owner. You are buying the stock for your platform. Is this correct? Just from my understanding of the business?
Well, it's somehow somewhere in the middle. So in certain areas, we do actually buy the stock and resell it. But in most of the time, we enable the platform to connect buyers and sellers. So the seller continues to maintain full control over his stock, continues to maintain full accessibility to his stock, including the pricing. We provide them guidelines. We provide them recommendations as to what the best price point for them to liquidate their inventory, depending on the market that they intend to liquidate their inventory in. Basically, there are multiple factors that contribute to the inventory buildup. It's not only the excess. So basically, it can be, depending on the industry, it can be the seasonality, it can be the technology obsolescence. Basically, an iPhone 12 today is irrelevant anymore compared to iPhone 15. Hence, they need to liquidate. In certain areas like distributors where they have to meet quotas and targets, they tend to overstock, and hence it doesn't really need to reach an aging stage. Simply, they have to over-order in order to achieve their quotas, and hence they need a medium outside their classic customer circle to liquidate this inventory. Economic slowdowns as well play a role in our business. Always consumer markets are hungry for stocks, especially if it's premium products at affordable prices. Economic slowdown can basically impact the high sellers market like UAE, KSA, Turkey, and basically, if I'm going to be specific about our region, it plays in our favor to help these companies liquidate in countries where such products are still hot or moving. This is a couple of the factors that contribute to having excess inventory or excess stocks that needs to be liquidated. Definitely on the other side as well, there is the inability to grow market reach or increase sales in new markets. Hence, you have to rely on platforms like ours, which by the way is I believe is a growing trend now. The B2B marketplace, although it's at its infancy in our region, but records show, and we've engaged E&Y to give us an analysis that basically the growth in B2B e-commerce in Middle East and Africa region was around 141% in 2023. And it's expected to grow by 346% by 2025. So playing a role in helping businesses expand their reach, expand their market reach in terms of access to be it markets in Africa or other Middle Eastern countries who are hungry for this stock. It plays a role beyond just only liquidation. It takes them to new markets without spending time, money, and effort. And this is the role that we...
Before we are diving into the details of the business model, and then I will hand over to Lina for the more profound questions, because she knows how to buy and sell stuff online much better than I am. Let's stick for like a minute on the macroeconomic side, because you said it really depends on like how economics it's working out. So my understanding was that during Corona there was kind of an over demand. So supply chain issues led actually to not enough stock for many businesses. So they started to restock too high. And now as the economy is like stalling, or has like a hard time to fight against like Chinese platform for whatever, I met a lot of retailers with like too much stock, to be very honest, which from my understanding, is creating a good opportunity for you. Can you guide us a little bit about through the last 5 years, and what those 5 years meant for you as a business? Because right now I would believe sensational times for you. There's more stock offered to you as a platform than there's even demand. That would be my naive outside assumption.
Yeah. So yes, you're absolutely right. We have to roll back a little bit about the root cause of the issue. The liquidation industry in general has been there for long years. I mean, the U.S. Liquidation industry alone is a $644 billion industry. In the Middle East and Africa region, there are no organized platforms that allow companies to basically liquidate their inventory. So what happens is if there's an economic slowdown, they would need to basically take the loss, take the hit, or rely on offline liquidators who are basically jobbers who are only interested in obsolete stocks at 1/10 the price of whatever that stock is worth. So we see a lot of brands who are listed with us now suffering from this issue in particular. Be it stocks since the Corona days, since this slowdown that happened as of 2020, or even the seasonalities that I spoke about from technological perspective, or simply trends. So the access to brand is becoming more challenging for these businesses in terms from only a retail perspective, and hence they are looking for alternatives while still preserving their brand equity. One of the major things that we are providing as a solution is the anonymity of the businesses that are listing with us. And throughout my conversation, I will not be talking about the premium companies or premium distributors that are listed with us, because it's part of our SLA then to maintain the anonymity even after the deal is done. And this is a major attraction for these businesses. they get the chance to liquidate their inventory while maintaining their anonymity through That's My Stuff. So the sellers now are happy to find a medium that can help them liquidate their inventory. They have restrictions as to what markets can have access to this inventory. And this is another added value that we are providing to them. This means that if they want to restrict a certain brand like Adidas from being sold in the same market, say UAE, they can limit that and sell it in countries like Nigeria or Kenya or Tanzania, where we can have the coverage. So your assumption is true, but yet on the other side of the equation, we have a huge consumer market. And this is why we have separated the region into two parts: a seller-focused market, which is UAE, KSA, Turkey, and a buyers-focused market, which is mainly major African countries and Middle Eastern countries like Iraq, Jordan, Levant region, and so on.
So this is perfect intro into my next question, because I've been listening for you for a while, and I'm like, so who are those buyers and who are those sellers? Because are we talking retailers who are, like, let's say, selling these brands, or are they the brands themselves? Are they, and on the buyer side, like, so if I'm Lena and I'm not a business, I just decided, let's say, to launch another brands for less, you know what I mean? As an example, in the, I don't know, out of my living room, can I just go and buy a container of mixed products from you? Can you walk us through a bit of the business model, like from the buyer's perspective? Like, who are they? Is there specific industries, or like one person has it all? Because for me, like, why are they not buying, from the US? Because, in the US, that type of platforms exist. Like, what's the whole value proposition? Is that the product already is in the Middle East? Can you elaborate more about that?
Yes, thank you for that question, Nina, because this is the core of what we're trying to achieve. Yes, the US has an established liquidation mediums, established liquidation platforms. However, businesses in our region do not have the same. And our main objective is to help businesses in the region here to liquidate their inventory in other markets where such inventory is still relevant. Now, the typical buyer is a small to medium enterprise who have a small store in Nigeria or in Kenya or in Lebanon or in Iraq. And he wants access to non-Chinese product. He wants access to probably premium brands. And this is what we're focusing on. Access to premium brands that are physically available today and can ship tomorrow. So when we do our listing, we verify with the seller the availability of the stock. It's ready. We have a transparent model that basically allows the buyer to know that within 4 days to 6 days, depending on the shipping period and what medium of shipping that the buyer is requesting, his stock will be available in his warehouse. Unlike any other, sourcing platform that basically connects you to a factory and then you have to wait for production on an average 60 to 90 days to get your stock. This is readily available stock, premium brands at affordable prices. It's a shift in the mindset of using in the consumer markets in Africa. They're used to used clothes, used shoes, used electronics, and so on, simply because they don't have access to the right price point for premium products. Now we're giving them this access. We have established our offices in Kenya and Nigeria to help these companies address the trust that we are there for them, fulfilling for them locally and supporting them locally. Now, Kenya will act as a hub for East Africa, and Nigeria is for West Africa for sure. But what you've mentioned is exactly what we're trying to do. We are trying to facilitate the business in this region for this region, the Middle East and Africa region.
Okay, cool. So then, can you elaborate? You mentioned that there's like this small to medium enterprises, let's say in Western Africa. how do they find out about your business? So like, is your acquisition, like, how do you acquire these SMEs? Do you have like offline, like, is it even though it's a B2B commerce, do you still have like offline sales, or you are doing like online marketing? Like, walk us through like how do you as a business grow? So there's one thing of, as a marketplace to get that supply, which is clear, value proposition. But for the acquisition channel, what do you do?
Yeah. So basically we have multiple acquisition channels. There's, we use, 5 levels of, onboarding strategy. Basically we use, networks from the perspective of the buyers. If we're going to talk the sellers, it's pretty much easy, and we have a very high listing of sellers from premium brands and premium conglomerates who are listed with us. From the buyer's perspective, we basically use chambers of commerce. We are tying up with chambers of commerce. We are tying up as well with third-party lead generation companies in these countries. We rely a lot on marketing events and roadshows to acquire these buyers. And definitely direct sales plays a major role in our at least initiating the first deal. And then after that, it rolls automatically through the platform. What we've done is we have coded the platform in a way that replicates really what happens in the offline world. And hence, after the first transaction, second transaction onwards is becoming really easy for these businesses to buy from us.
So my last question before I go to Alex. So share some KPIs, what you can, like what sort of like, are we doing like 1,000 orders a day, 10,000 orders a day?
That was my question.
Oh, was it?
Lina stole my question.
All right. So, Cash My Stock currently, no, we're not at the level of thousands because we're not a B2C. We are a B2B company, B2B marketplace. And hence, what we rely on is the value of the transaction rather than the volume. Although at a later stage it will become a volume game, but we are also a startup. We've been in the industry only for 2 years, and hence we are doing tens and not hundreds or thousands. But again, it's a high value, on average value of around $45,000 per order. Hence, it's pretty much sizable. And we need to keep in mind that B2B e-commerce in general in our region is still at its infancy stage. And this is why we wanted to start with addressing an issue, which is basically aging inventory, so we can help the adoption rate and increase the adoption rate of B2B e-commerce in our region.
Can you walk us a bit more in detail through the customer journey? Because obviously I went to your website and I clicked on like the first lot in the recommendation banner. Now I'm on a landing page telling me furniture mixed lot special offer, $42,000 per container, 3 containers available. So and this is obviously something, and there's a bit more of description in there, what kind of categories are in there, but you're saying it right. It was mainly a B2B handshake kind of business, especially the people from the industry I know about. They would have told me, no, Alex, this is a business you cannot do online because it's so much trust based, because there's usually not super clear descriptions of the product. So there needs to be some trust. Who's like a trusted seller, who is a trusted buyer, and then facilitating the order is a lot of like drinks, dinners, and handshakes business, right? And now you're saying you're doing this from Dubai, facilitating trades between, I don't know, KSA and Nigeria. So, and obviously within 2 years, you cannot you cannot meet so many people in Nigeria and Egypt and Jordan to do enough handshakes. So, who do you find there? So I understand the offer side. So I think it's to get to those stocks, because if there's enough pressure on liquidation for those stocks, that is solvable. But how do you find a buyer for this stock, for example, in Nigeria, who's saying, okay, Mohamed is a good guy. The website looks fine. I will wire him now $40,000 for one container of furniture where I not 100% know what's in it. So it seems to me it seems to be a stretch, right?
All right. So yeah. So this is where, Alex, we need to rely on the ecosystem of partnerships. We have to rely on a proper payment structure. We have to rely on an ecosystem of support functions from logistics perspective, and who provide the inspection security for both sides of the transaction. So, for instance, in Nigeria, we have tied up with Zenith Bank, for instance, and Zenith Bank will have an escrow account for us. The buyer will deposit the money into an escrow account, and to go through the process. Now, even you said you're on the page where there's a container and so on. However, this container, if you try to buy it now, you cannot buy it because you have to be a listed buyer with us. You have to go through our KYC and so on. And once you are listed with us, then you can buy the container. The buying process involves inspection. It involves a request from you, the buyer, if you want us to deliver to you or you want to use your own shipping company. And depending on that, the inspection happens either in your trusted logistics center or in our logistics center. And the payment will be released once you are satisfied with receiving your stock from the escrow. It's just like a slight LC. So it's nothing different to what you are doing today or what's happening today on the B2B industry. We even allow multiple payment modules. We've tied up with B2B payment gateways and providers like Payoneer, who also allows wallet and mass payout program. If the supplier or the buyer has a Payoneer account, he can do the same thing that they're doing with other banks. Also, LCs are accepted, site LCs. So everything that is currently happening in the real world is replicated and digitized in our platform. We don't have our own warehouses, so hence the warehouse we use is the warehouse that the buyer selects, either for his trusted logistics company where the seller delivers to that logistics company, or to our logistics company that was awarded based on an RFP that's issued to the logistics companies that want to fulfill this order based on the request of the buyer.
Okay, got it. A lot of escrow, I've heard. So trust, so let's say trust facilitating entities, in between. But this leads me to a second very important question. So, and this is also something, which became super clear during the Seamless conference and, during the stage Lena moderated at Seamless. So within the last 1 or 2 years, more and more Chinese platforms became super powerful globally. Leading platform for sure is Temu. TikTok is about to arrive in the next couple of years. And at the recent K5 conference in Germany, which is the biggest e-commerce conference in Germany, I've learned that the market is still growing. The e-commerce B2C and B2B market is growing, but only for very, very few actors. And some of the actors are the Chinese platforms, and most of the others do have a shrinking top line in their balance sheet. Though their only strategy of survival is reducing costs, which is the first time in the e-commerce industry in Europe. And this leads me thinking that this new model of producing stuff in China, of this manufacturing to consumer industry, where you're connecting consumers in a certain country with factories in China, which is leading all the retailers in between out of the game, seems to be a very powerful model, also impacting the companies you are working with. Is there, in the discussions you've had in the last 12 to 18 months, is this something that pops up a lot where retailers are concerned about this development?
No, look, again, what I'm dealing with mainly is premium brands. This is the main focus that I'm doing. And today, one of I would say, well, I cannot disclose, but the most established and well-known e-commerce company globally, present in UAE, US, KSA, is working with us and giving us liquidation stock. And basically, we are targeting a niche market of brands at affordable prices. The Chinese market or the Chinese products still had its own market, still continues to grow. I not only mention Temu. I mean, Temu is there. There's also Shein. There's others and so on. Shein is huge in Africa. Okay. But still, it does not compete with what I do. The companies I'm dealing with here have a certain level of products, medium to high end. I'm not talking about luxury. I'm talking medium to high end brands. These brands have seasonality. They want to preserve the brands. They want to preserve to where these brands are being shipped and how it's being handled. And this is the service that we are providing to these brands. So we cannot eat up the whole market. Definitely there's an impact, but the impact is minimized if we are talking about brands only rather than the general market.
Okay, and then one last question before handing back to Lina. So you're saying you're doing business also in Africa, like Nigeria, Egypt. So if we're looking at statistics where future growth comes from, future growth is usually connected to the growth in the population, where Egypt and Nigeria are usually like in the top 5 places globally. Where I would believe or would like to think that there must be a good connection with population growth, GDP growth, and obviously demand for such retail products you're selling. Is this true? So is it a more sparkling environment, making your life easy, or is it just wishful thinking?
No, and this is a very good question. My approach to this is different. It's not about growth in population as much as, and this is what I'm working on actively with key players in Nigeria, for instance. 80% of the sub-Saharan African countries, 80% of the population are unbanked population. They don't have bank accounts. They rely on mobile wallets. They rely on money transfers, physical money transfers. And hence you see in countries like Kenya or even now Nigeria and others, that follow the Kenyan trend. We see fintech is booming at the forefront of any other country. Basically the forefront of fintech is coming from Africa, simply because they're trying to address the same issue that there's unbanked population. And you see a lot of organizations, be it NGOs and others, trying to boost the rural area contribution into the GDPs. Main cities in main countries, I'm going to talk mainly about Nigeria now, because you mentioned Nigeria. Egypt is another game. We're not touching Egypt so far because of the currency issues. But if I'm going to talk about Nigeria alone, Nigeria contributes to 42% out of the ECOWAS GDP. The ECOWAS is the economic alliance in West Africa. 42% of that GDP is contributed by Nigeria, over 200 million people. And yet you have main economic hubs that are governing the whole contribution to that GDP outside oil. So what we're trying to work on is with these NGOs, with these micro lenders and nano lenders, to give access to rural area businesses, small enterprises, to get access to product they can create business of. And then these lenders, micro lenders, nano lenders, give them money and help them to contribute into the economy and start establishing businesses and doing business. So, yes, the growth in population plays a major role in why we're targeting Nigeria rather than Ghana, for instance. But at the same time, I want to focus on countries. The next thing I want to focus on, for instance, is Congo, DRC, because also there's a huge lack in terms of connecting rural areas with high money available on the table, not being properly used, and people are migrating into the likes of Kinshasa and so on to work and make money and then send back home, while they can establish their businesses back home, especially now that there's funding coming through the mobile wallets, through the basically fintech that's growing. So I want to go hand in hand with the fintech, provide businesses access to inventories, stocks that they can establish businesses. And we're working actively with organizations in Nigeria now to help establish that bridge in rural areas so that we can contribute to the growth of the economy, make these rural areas productive, and promote these small businesses through the NGOs who are actually willing to fund to help create this ecosystem.
So now I have 3 questions in one, and then we'll probably be finished. But now I'm very clear on the business model. And now the following questions. So can you share us, like, is there a certain because, on your website, you're serving like very wide range, of categories, but is there any some sort of category that clear about premium brands, but what about categories that are very in demand? Is it per country, or like in general, like everyone just really interested in the baby products because as a mother, you want to buy a branded baby product and therefore it's a big demand in Africa. So that's one part of the question. And second is like, so when let's say I want to start to shop, I'm in Nigeria, I bought the first lot of products from you, but obviously there's no continuity of the same product, right? So what do they do next? Okay. Like, let's say I bought this, baby, Bjorn bouncer, for the kid. But then Mohamed doesn't have more baby Bjorn bouncers left because Mohamed relies on sort of excess inventory. So what do these players do next? Once they bought the first container from you, what do they do for the second one? Where do they get the stock?
Yeah. So it did happen.
As you change the assortment.
Yeah. So don't forget something that we as a platform are not the owners of the stock, and hence we do have the supplier and we do have the buyer. Hence, if the buyer comes back to us and there's a sourcing module for us to help them source what they cannot find on the platform. So once they come up, and it happened multiple times where the buyer bought something and then they found it sold out on our platform. So they sent us a source it for us request, and we went back to the supplier. We forwarded back to all the suppliers who sell our products, by the way, not only one. So let me give you an example. Let's say Adidas, because we do have Adidas on our platform. The Adidas we have on our platform does not come from one source, even though Apparel Group here in the region is the distributor of Adidas. However, we have a lot of liquidation companies from Europe, from Spain, we have from Malta, we have from Asia, who actually have also liquidation contracts with Adidas and are listing with us. So what happens is if somebody wants to buy Adidas, they can source it from multiple sources and then we consolidate the order. Now, in the Pacific a specific case where we received a request. It was basically in the electronics section. We went back to the supplier and said, we want this stock. And their answer was, we don't have the stock, but we have a wholesaler who is basically our wholesaler. They are the distributor. Their wholesalers, they recommended us to their wholesalers. Their wholesaler listed with us. And within 2 days, we've had the supply over to them. So the point is, this is the beauty of what we're trying to do in terms of a supply chain management. You don't rely anymore on a single supplier. The product itself becomes the target. And from the list of thousands of suppliers that we have, we can know where to target our requests and get this stock sourced. At the same time, the seller who have excess stock knows that we have thousands of buyers on the other side. If he ends up with an excess, he knows that he has a channel he can pipe it through and get rid of or release it. So it's really not tied up anymore to the classic supply chain approach. Does this answer your question?
Yeah, and what categories are most popular?
Yeah, so at the moment we have 3 categories that are most popular. It is the electronics and fashion and automotive spare parts in particular. In Africa, automotive spare parts and accessories is huge. Fashion is the fastest moving for us, and then electronics.
Nice.
So then my last question for the podcast. So let's say money is not a limit for you. So how fast could you grow this business? Because my understanding is there's like a capped supply, more or less, but no capped demand. So you can do whatever you want, hire people, buy inventory, build your own warehouses. So what's going to be the fastest way to grow for you?
Yeah, I mean, this is why we took a different approach rather than building a single market and growing that market and then moving from there. So we took a different approach. We are a cross-border commerce platform, and hence we have to build the foundation in the main cities that we believe are supplying and demanding on the other side. So the growth criteria for us is pretty much simple. We're going to grow our West African presence. We are asset light again, I say. I mean, we're not going to be hiring a lot of sales team. We're going to focus more on marketing and basically the onboarding strategy that we're adopting. We're going to work on events, roadshows, marketing, lead generation, direct sales, and network. This is the best way for us to scale the business. We are not looking at, again, we're not a B2C company. We don't want millions of sellers and buyers and so on. What we want to focus on is small businesses, enabling small businesses to get access to what we have here. The big conglomerates that have continuous supply are already with us. The marketplaces or basically e-commerce market, B2C e-commerce marketplaces that are very well known globally are already working with us, and we are helping them with the liquidation. The same thing that they are doing in the US, we are helping them do here in the region. Hence, we're not worried about the supply. We are not worried about the demand as well, because the markets we are targeting are multi-$100 billion markets, and the demand, they basically demand everything. They need everything. They don't produce, they have to import everything, and hence so far they've been relying on Alibaba's of the world. Now we are the new kid on the block, and we want to continue to maintain the trust that we are trying to establish with them, and create our brand name to create this. We're the only ones currently playing in this liquidation area. It's not going to be a walk in the park. Yet also it's not something that, is a huge challenge because we're unique in the market, and we've addressed the challenges from multiple angles through a very robust ecosystem of partnerships.
Super cool. Any last question from you, Lina?
Last question is, what we didn't hear anything about Saudi. So my last question is, what's the plan for Saudi? Because it's, that if you would think about e-commerce growth, everyone's talking in the region, UAE is pretty saturated and Saudi is the next big thing outside Africa. So what are you guys thinking about Saudi market? And as we're just preparing for Saudi Seamless, are you guys coming? Tell us more about Saudi.
So we're not really thinking about Saudi. We're already established in Saudi. Our office has been set there. We have a lot of also, same like UAE. We have a lot of huge retail companies listed with us in Saudi. We started the sales journey in Saudi as well. The beauty about Saudi, it's not only a seller market, even though it's seller heavy, because all brands are present there, but also there's the same concept that I spoke about in Nigeria applies in Saudi. There's a lot of rural areas that needs access to stocks and so on. The beauty of Saudi is we have an established fulfillment network. More and more, the fulfillment area is growing, and hence we're leveraging as well that with some very good partnerships with local fulfillment and next day delivery fulfillment partners. So Saudi has been on our agenda since day one, and we've established earlier this year the office in Saudi, and we started already the business in Saudi. We are in Seamless in Saudi. We're participating as a silver sponsor as well. And we are looking forward to that. So Lina, just because you mentioned Saudi, I'd like also to highlight something very important about Saudi. And since I've spent out of my 25 years experience, I've spent 20 years in business in Africa, and I've done business in 27 countries in Africa. Pretty much most of my life was in Africa. I just spent weekends in Dubai. And I know pretty much when we speak about Africa and where imports come in Africa, mainly you hear Dubai, China, a little bit South Africa, and so on. However, the Saudi market has been closed for the African markets in general for infinity, as far as I remember. Beside oil or probably some FMCG products, there was no appetite for multiple reasons, be it the cultural reasons, language barriers, logistics barriers, and so on. Saudi market has been closed to Africa. So now when I'm talking to businesses in Saudi, the most interesting part of that is not liquidation. The most interesting part to them was, you guys are established in Africa. Can you help me expand into Africa? I want to reach these markets. I want to expand my market reach. The platform allows them to negotiate deals because we have a negotiation module in the platform. They can negotiate a deal while the one sitting behind the laptop speaking Arabic can speak to a French guy in Cote d'Ivoire, negotiating the same deal, speaking the same language, and the platform is just using two different languages to close the deal. Hence, I'm enabling them to reach the market. And this is a huge thing for Saudi because now these businesses have an access that wasn't before there, and they don't need to invest in people going to do and expand these markets. They will rely on what we are providing as a service. They will rely on what we're providing as a platform and technology. And they allow us to continue the whole cycle beyond the sales out of the kingdom.
Yeah, very interesting for sure.
Okay, then we are coming to an end here. So I really enjoyed this, Mohamed. I will definitely surf around on your platform because so this kind of black box container, so with some furniture in there, really sparked my interest. Hopefully I can negotiate a good deal. Thank you for your time, and hope we can meet at Saudi Seamless.